I'm here today with Greg Eiselein and Ann Phillips, who are excellent K-State professors and Louisa May Alcott scholars. What are we celebrating this year?
It's the 150th anniversary of the publication of Little Women.
Yeah, Little Women's one of the most important American novels, and this is it's a big moment for it.
And the first part of the novel came out in October of 1868, and then the second part, which was immediately demanded by readers the minute they started to read Little Women, came out in April of 1869. And so we are going to have a celebration this year that starts the 30th of July and will run all the way through June of next year, among other things.
Why is Little Women important in the 21st century?
Ha!
Well, I think, first of all, it's a novel that had such a huge influence on subsequent American literature and culture, and even, in fact, world literature and culture. Mm-hmm. One thing that I think about is that Little Women establishes this kind of story in American literature of four different girls with sharply defined personalities that play against each other. There's rivalries, but there's also friendship and support. I think about Barbara Kingsolver, The Poisonwood Bible. I think about the HBO series Girls, The Virgin Suicides.
The Penderwicks. Jeannie Birdsall's National Book Award-winning novel, The Penderwicks, has Little Women in its genetic fiber.
Anne of Green Gables. It goes on and on.
And it's not just stories about girls, it's stories about boys too, because you think about Laurie as the important he's been called fifth sister in this novel, and there's a lot about his growing up and his having to balance his grandfather's desire that he joins the business with his artistic endeavors and ambitions, and he has to negotiate his growing up just as much as the March sisters do.
I think it's also a really important novel for us in the 21st century. This is a novel about the empowerment of women and young people. It's about resisting racism. It's about resisting various kinds of oppression at a dark moment. And this is it's written right after the Civil War, and the novel champions people in the margins, whether it's the poor like the Hummels.
Well, and even the March girls. It's like, I'm poor. I have access to upper class people, but I'm not one of them, and how do I negotiate my way in the world?
It champions the arts, not only literature, but music, art, and domestic arts.
And I want to put Little Women in contrast to the other literature about young women that was available in 1868 when this novel came out. Because the two previous American books that were sort of in this lineage were The Wide, Wide World, from the 1850s, and Elsie Dinsmore, which came out a year before Little Women. And these are very pious young women, and they're they cry a lot. And, like Elsie will not play the piano on Sunday until she actually conks out from sitting at the bench and hits her head on the piano and convinces her father to find, the true faith. This Little Women novel is so different from that stuff. It's all about, we're going to do a Christmas theatrical that we wrote ourselves and we're performing like 4 parts apiece, or we're going to write a family newspaper, or I'm going to burn my sister's novel or collection of stories because I'm mad at her because she didn't take me to the play. They squabble, they fight, they play. It's a whole different ballgame than anything that came before it.
Well, it's a novel about fun and play, but it's also a novel about figuring out who you are and what you want to be with your life. And those roles aren't defined. There's not just one way to be a young woman. There's a whole bunch of different ways to become a woman.
Yes. In other words, we're still trying to figure out those things, and that's why it's relevant in the 21st century.
Awesome. One more question. How can our viewers win next week at trivia? What should they know about Louisa May Alcott?
What should they know? So do we put this in the form of a question?
Yes.
Sure.
Do we have to give the answer, or can we let them figure it out?
I think it's up to you, but it might be kind to give them the answer.
How about a couple answers and a couple not?
Sure.
Okay. Who's the famous 1970s punk rocker that was influenced by Louisa May Alcott? You can answer.
Are we going to tell them?
Sure.
Patti Smith. And he wrote the best essay about Patti Smith and Louisa May Alcott, and you should read it. To whom did Alcott write a memorial poem upon his death in 1862 that is beautiful and was published and we should all read? You can answer that one.
Thoreau. Who was the abolitionist family that Louisa and her family housed after the father of the family got arrested?
Why, that would be the family of John Brown. How about what significant 19th century British author was really important to Alcott and is alluded to in creative and amazing ways all through the novella Behind a Mask? Hint, the main character's name is Jean Muir, and we're not going to give you the rest of the answer.
That is awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.